Thank you guys for tuning in to the Marching Health Audio Experience. I'm Dr. Elliott Cleveland, and I have a special guest today, Jeff Young from Carmel High School in Carmel, Indiana. Jeff, how's it going up there?
It's going great. How about you?
We're doing good down in the Southeast. Jeff has a wealth.
I'm actually probably over exaggerating how great it is. I've been grading online e-learning assignments pretty much all day since we're in lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys get to do anything, or is the whole state locked down right now?
You're really not supposed to go anywhere unless it's to the grocery, that kind of thing.
We haven't officially locked down South Carolina, but they just yesterday made the announcement that small businesses are closing up. So it's getting a little bit more restricted every day. We're usually a few days behind the rest of the world in the South.
Yeah, I was going to say all of our restaurants and bars and small businesses closed about a week ago.
It's making it tough, but that leaves the opportunity for all this stuff digitally.
Yep.
So
fortunately, we are able to podcast still, so that's cool.
Yeah, and you guys just released one.
Yeah, we released one yesterday regarding e-learning and how to, like, some of our strategies for that. We released another one today that was kind of on one of our online courses called Total Program Success. And we're on episode 31. And we've been doing it about a year.
And that's you and Bobby from Wanda, right?
Yes, and that's called That Band Life.
Awesome.
Find us on Instagram, That Band Life 1.
Somebody beat you to the name on Instagram?
I don't remember exactly why I couldn't get That Band Life without the number 1. I don't know. It's been
probably
a year.
A spam account.
Maybe, yeah.
We'll have to message them and steal it from them. See if they'll give it to us.
Yeah, so it's just kind of an offshoot of, just in case your listeners don't know what Dynamic Marching is. Dynamic Marching is a company that was started by myself and Chris Mader in 2006, and we produce and film and write and distribute educational videos and courses, mainly regarding the marching arts. There's a couple things on there in terms of just symphonic band and color guard, but mostly it has to do with music and marching and movement for the marching arts. And so
that's exactly why I want you on here right now.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for way longer than we've even been around as Marching Health. So you've got the courses already done. You've explained a lot of this in the anatomical and physiological terms. So I think this will help viewers and our audience piece a lot of these concepts together that we've been trying to teach as well.
Well, it's something I'm excited about talking about. So ask away.
So first, just give people a background of where you've taught, where you've been, and what has helped you merge all of these concepts together at Carmel.
I actually went to Carmel High School back in the dark ages, and I was a drum major and a trumpet player. I went to the University of Notre Dame, majored in biology for my undergraduate, and I was on the gymnastics team at Notre Dame while I was there. I only did 1 year of college marching band. We can talk about that later if you want to, but I did mostly gymnastics when I was in college. And so combination of just majoring in biology, being interested in and teaching anatomy and physiology and gymnastics and body movement kind of led me to, I started out as just a trumpet tech with Carmel High School while I was summers during college. And then around 2000 is when I took over the visual program, just kind of piecing together things I learned from gymnastics and working out and anatomy and physiology and my knowledge of marching band. But then also I spent a weekend with Todd Bryan from the Blue Devils, just kind of taking notes at one of their winter camps, and just kind of took all that and made it into how it works for me and how it works for Carmel High School.
I forget that you had such a heavy sport influence with gymnastics, and that's something that I don't feel like a lot of our audience has. There's a lot of musicians that didn't necessarily grow up with an athletic background. So talk a little bit more about that and how you encourage people to do multiple things and intertwine the two of those into your visual programming.
I would say that anybody who knew me in high school probably didn't know me as an athlete. I was very small. I didn't have a growth spurt until college. I was not very muscular in high school, but I did gymnastics when I was younger, and then just kind of put that on the shelf for a while. And then at Notre Dame we had a club gymnastics team, and so it wasn't like I needed a scholarship to be a part of it. When I first joined again, I was relearning how to do cartwheels. It's that kind of level of
Hmm.
gymnastics. But by the end of my 4 years in college, I was doing tumbling passes and high bar routines and parallel bar routines. And I never really got good at the rings or pommel horse. You need to be pretty huge in the shoulders for that. But what it did do is it taught me how to get my body in peak condition.
Hmm.
I've never been as ripped as I was senior year of college, like most people probably. But it was all body weight stuff. It was all, through physical conditioning and through tumbling and through high bar work and stuff that a lot of people today would call calisthenics, in addition to the tumbling part. So I actually became more of an athlete in college than I was in high school. And
Wow.
that's really carried me through, into my 40s now, where I'm still working out on a regular basis. My body feels great. I have great flexibility and movement. Still, I can still do a killer handstand if I have to.
Oh man, if
Um,
this wasn't a podcast, I'd get you to do it.
yeah, yeah. But I think the biggest thing is that experience in gymnastics helped me to have a lifelong passion for just being not, I wouldn't say my body is optimum, but I've been trying to keep my body as in a shape that's as optimum as possible given the constraints of life in
Hmm.
your adulthood. So it's really
Absolutely.
I'm really fortunate. I'm blessed that I had that opportunity and that my body keeps cooperating.
And it's the people that I see in the physical therapy clinic that did not try to maintain some level of optimization of their physical tool set that end up getting hurt from. Honestly, sometimes it's just that they've been sedentary for so long and then try to move again and their body's not ready for it. And that happens a lot on the band field. I'm sure you've seen it at Carmel where you can have kids come in that are fantastic middle school musicians, but the kid hasn't been outdoors and conditioned themselves and they get on the band field and they're sitting on the sidelines for the first couple weeks of the year.
It's really sad, and I don't do this to be mean, but every once in a while, I will say to the ensemble I'm working with, um, "You're supposed to be in your peak condition." In
Hmm.
your teenage years, you're reaching, at least your physical height that you're going to be for the rest of your life, and you're
Hmm.
still skinny, or you could be, like and I'll be doing, maybe body weight exercises with them or P90X or yoga, and
Hmm.
I'll look out there and there's like, there's 30 students who can't do a downward dog.
Right.
And you're like,
And we're talking
come
about
on.
something that you're still in contact with the ground.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to be in the prime of your life and you can't keep up with this 40-year-old. Like, come on, get your act together. So
Right.
last summer, I kind of challenged them. Planet Fitness around here had free memberships
Hmm.
for teenagers for the summer. And I was like, I want to see you guys in there. Before quarantine, I would go to Planet Fitness on a regular basis and I'd be like, I'm not in there every day, but if I'm in there and I don't see a single band kid, something's wrong. You have all this time in the summer and it's free. Get your butt in there, get on an elliptical, walk if you have to, do some
Hmm.
light dumbbells, but like you're going to be a better marcher
Hmm.
if you just do basic stuff to get moving.
Yeah. I will say the first year I was at Wando, before we ever started marching health or doing anything physical, those kids were soft. You could tell that they
Yeah.
hadn't been outdoors or pushing themselves physically throughout the summer. And then year two is when we sat down with the staff and agreed that we have to start doing something. And we started putting these pieces together for this puzzle that ended up becoming our 15-minute marching band workout, where every day we show up and there's first 15 minutes dedicated to conditioning. But
Right.
it was remarkable to me and to the rest of the staff to watch the physique and the mental resiliency of these students as they improved how conditioned they were physically. So, year four, when I was leaving Charleston, they looked like a very different band as far as their physique and their attitude when they showed up. They had a much more confident presence about themselves, which the physical health and the mental health of young people go hand in hand. I'm a big proponent of that and believer in that. And so that's one area where I try to push them. And when I'm posting on our Marching Health social media accounts, I try to link the two of those so that young people really get to understand that. And hopefully that inspires some of them.
It really makes me mad when I see marching bands portrayed in TV and movies, because they portray them in these big baggy wool uniforms from the past, and then they show like the big kids and the uncoordinated kids, and like the TV and movies still keep trying to push the stereotype that marching band is for dorks. And
Hmm.
the way that we do marching band, I mean, we have 5 national championships at Carmel. You don't do that by being dorks.
Right.
We're nerds, but in a good way. Like,
Everybody is nerdy about something.
yeah,
Athletes are
we're
nerdy about their
nerdy about
sports.
being the best we can be. It's really, really sad to me that it's portrayed the way it is in the movies and TV. I just watched a new TV show the other day, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, this is what they think marching band is in Hollywood. And okay, maybe it is in a lot of places, but I think my goal when I go into places like Lake Central High School in Indiana, I usually do like a 2-day clinic with them in June every year. I'm hoping we're out of quarantine by that time this year. But they always, as soon as I walk in, they're like, "What's the workout this year?" And there's kids throwing up, and it's sweating really bad, but they still want to do it because they
Hmm.
see the benefit in that. And any of the top groups that you see across the country, they're going to be incorporating some sort of fitness. They might need your plan.
Right.
Might be a little bit too throwing darts at a dartboard, just
Hmm.
like hoping they hit something right.
Hmm.
So I would suggest, you know, any band across the country from checking out your plan, because it's always good to have a plan.
Right. And something is always better than nothing. Um,
Yeah.
and getting started is really the hardest part with a lot of bands who haven't done anything like this before. I will say I was watching just on social media last spring, and Ayala out in California posted their drumlines workout. And during the week, their drumline kids get access to the weight room in the school, and they have a
Nice.
CrossFit coach take them in there. So I'm waiting for the day where Netflix decides that they're going to do a documentary on WGI, and Ayala gets featured, and we get to see behind the curtain for what these kids are actually capable of, because they look like CrossFit athletes. And that's
Right.
how they're able to go into these lunge moves and then pivot and reverse on a dime and still play their instruments at a really, really high level. It's quite amazing.
It's not by accident.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what Carmel's routine has become from the moment you start rehearsal. How do you approach the physical health and wellness of the members?
Well, one thing I want to point out that's interesting is that I know you haven't worked with the Cadets Drum and Bugle Corps,
Mhm.
but when I was at Cadets 3 years ago, we had a strength and conditioning guy, Brendan, come. Brendan,
George, Coach
yeah,
George.
Coach George came in, and he did a dynamic stretching routine with us. And then I saw you doing your dynamic stretching routine with the Wando people, and I was like, "Oh, that's really similar." And what I kind of learned from that is, okay, here's a doctor from one area of the country, and here's a professional from another end of the country, and they both have a passion for marching band, but they're professionals in the physical therapy realm and in the training realm and all that. And so I was like, there must be something to this. And so we started doing that dynamic stretching routine every single day in the summer. We
Hmm.
started that 2 years ago. And then, it has, walking, quad pulls and hamstring stretches. And I'm sure you could list them off quicker than
Hmm.
I can. But I actually use the same stretching routine before I do any workout,
Hmm.
because I think it's really helpful. So
Right.
anyway, that's maybe like 12 or 15 different passes on the field,
Hmm.
where we'll line up. We have a lot of kids in the Carmel band, but
Right.
we'll line them all up on like the 30-yard line
Hmm.
ish in a big pack, front to back on the field, and they'll do a pass to the other, maybe to like the 50-yard line or so.
Mhm.
Then they'll come back the other way doing the next exercise. And I try to keep that nice and light. It's not the type of thing where we're like everybody be perfectly quiet so you can hear a pin drop. I try to keep things a little bit loose. Just they're going through that. You're going through all that, and then after they get through the dynamic stretching, at that point they go to their stretch block.
Mhm.
Then we do what a lot of people would call the push play routine, which is a stretch and body warm up set to music. I teach that over a week's time or so in June every year. And it involves plies and tendus and foot positions and lunges and chassés and all sorts of things that we would use. Like we like to say that that's their vocabulary, you know. And
Mhm.
so when our choreographers come in, like Andy Toth or Michael Townsend, when those guys come in, we have the words already.
Mhm.
They just need to put sentences together
Right.
as choreographers. And every once in a while, they'll throw something new at the students, and they're like, "Whoa, we haven't done that." But then they'll be like, "Okay, well, this starts as a lunge, but then you roll to the ground,
Mhm.
and then you come out of it this way." And like the vocabulary is there by then,
Mhm.
even with some of the freshmen. So that's the kind of a typical rehearsal in the summer for us is we get there, we do dynamic stretching,
Mhm.
we get in our block, we do the stretch and body routine.
Mhm.
And then from there, we would stay in the block and do some block exercises with marching,
Mhm.
some balance exercises, maybe some habit exercises, heel arch ball toe, one step forward, two steps forward, one step backward, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff that you don't really have to move very far in. And then if we have a lot of time, we would break up into smaller groups and do across the floors or specialty activities across the field. I have a couple really strong people who help teach, and we're co-teachers in visual. Joey Weaver is one of them. Julian Johnson is the other one. They're there with me every day at Carmel, and so we can easily break up into three groups, and maybe I'll work on one concept. Maybe I'll take one aspect of the dynamic stretch or the stretch and
Mhm.
body routine and go, okay, today we're really just going to look at how do you properly stretch the hamstring,
Right.
or today we're going to look at how to do just a single plie properly, while Julian's working on leg shape, and then Joey's working on direction changes or something like that, and then we'll rotate it around.
I'm really glad you said you guys do focus on balance exercises because the majority of your time marching is on one leg, not two. Just like when you're walking, it's about 60% on one leg standing and the other leg is swinging to take the next step. The faster you go, the more that ratio shifts into one leg balance exercise. So, what do you guys typically do with that section?
We have an exercise where it we do an up for four, down for four exercise, which I think a lot of drum corps do.
Hmm.
I know the Blue Devils do that a lot. We also do one where they'll come up, and then they'll straighten their leg and point the toe and hold it out there.
Hmm.
They'll bring it down to just touch the ground and then pull it in. And then they'll switch feet and do the other side.
Hmm.
Just practicing moving a leg into the air while balancing and staying tall on the other leg.
Hmm.
That's exercise we don't do that a lot late season, but we try to do that on a regular basis during the summer and the early fall.
Right. And these young people are still growing into their bodies when they're going through your high school program. So, in my opinion, getting the balance side of things taken care of as early as possible in the year helps with them being more coordinated come late September and October when competition season starts. And that helps work out some of the kinks that a lot of groups who don't focus on those things can't figure out why can't so and so in the trombone section do this by now. Well, if they start with more of those basics of just body awareness and body control exercises, that really pays dividends later on down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being able to balance on one foot is not a given. It's not something that
Hmm.
everybody can definitely do. And also, when you do, in addition to what we were just talking about, we also do work out with the group. I
Right.
I do it, and I'll just do like a simple 20-minute, okay, and I'll just do. It's more of a Tabata style where it's like
Hmm.
40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. Where I'll do
Hmm.
jumping jacks, rest for 20. push-ups, rest for 20, burpees, mountain climbers, air squats, jumping jacks,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And really that's working some bigger muscle groups, whereas the balance stuff is working really tiny muscle groups and working
Hmm.
your proprioception and the
I
joints and
love that
that
you
kind of
use
stuff.
that word. I'm so proud. That's
I like to
really,
break that word out whenever
uh-huh,
possible.
the
But
joint
yeah,
awareness of those little
yeah,
bitty
exactly.
muscles and tendons and ligaments and joints. When in your
Actually, my son
season,
Connor showed me a video of a robot yesterday who can do a backflip,
uh-huh.
like a full size human sized robot that they've taught it to do box jumps and backflips. And I said, you know what, the one thing that robot definitely could not do is walk down a gravel hill. And because humans can do that, because we have this weird thing called proprioception. We have these all of these receptors in all of our joints that are constantly aware of our position in space,
Hmm.
and we can make these finite adjustments, and we slip a little bit, and we move our weight a different way, and
Hmm.
it's going to be a long time before you could create a robot that has that kind of awareness of their place in space.
Absolutely. And before we switch any topics there, when someone gets hurt, whether it's a knee injury or an ankle sprain, the proprioception of those joints takes a big hit. And that's
Mm,
honestly why some of the rehab processes take so long, is because it takes a while for you to get your proprioception and your joint awareness in your ankle back if you've rolled it and sprained it and had to stay off of it for a couple of weeks.
that's
And
a
that
good point. I didn't think about that.
we do a lot of single leg balance work for those individuals. And part of the program that I teach, we have them close their eyes because proprioception gets most challenged when you take away one of your senses. So you've got three senses that operate to keep you balanced and keep your equilibrium steady. It's your balance or your visual sense, because we latch onto things to help us stay balanced. It is your proprioception, or it's your vestibular system, which is your inner ear. So, not getting too scientific, but if you've ever had vertigo, that's when you literally have little crystals inside your ear that get into the wrong places. They have canals that are like roller coaster
Hmm.
loops. And if those get out, it sends signals to your brain that you are doing flips. It's miserable to have vertigo. So you have to take
It's kind of like when you
away.
do the thing where you spin around the bat, and then when you
Mhm.
stop, you still feel like you're spinning.
Yeah, because those crystals and the semicircular canals in your ear are still having those sensations. So, what you can do on the band field to challenge your proprioception and to get your students more ready to handle that is have them do up for four, down for four, then have them do it with their eyes closed. And you will see them wobbling all over the place because they rely so heavily on their vision. And the kids that struggle to backwards march get much better at backwards marching when they learn how to trust their body with their eyes closed and not be
That's
latching
great.
on to what they're trying to do.
Yeah. We just lost half the audience when we mentioned proprioception and semicircular canals, I think,
Right.
but we'll keep talking anyway.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, all you got to do is do some one leg balance and then close your eyes while you do one leg balance and see where
Yeah,
your band kids are. And that'll
for
really
sure.
improve their coordination.
Yeah.
So, next thing I want to talk to you about is that conditioning sequence that you're discussing. When in your season do you actually do conditioning?
In June and July, when we have weeks of rehearsals, where there's I want to say 1 to 6 would be our typical time frame in those rehearsal times, where we've got 5 hours minus a dinner break in there. So we have a lot of time to play with. It's okay to take 20 minutes out of that at the very beginning, to do some sort of actual workout. It's not like, we'll do the dynamic stretching, and then we'll do the stretch routine, and then we'll be like, all right, we're doing a 20-minute workout today. I think people overthink this like crazy. It's kind of when I, like right now, when people are at home, for this quarantine, for the COVID-19 stuff, and it floors me when I look at social media and people are like, I found this home workout to do. And I was like, well, you don't have to find anything. You need a timer,
Uh-huh.
and like everybody knows what running in place is, and jumping jacks and burpees, and like it's not like you've just reinvented home workouts, and all these people are posting this stuff.
Hmm.
Thing I really like about, there's this YouTube channel called The Body Coach.
Hmm.
I don't know if he's Australian or British, but he doesn't worry about all the production value. It's not like a Tony Horton P90X video or Sean T, where it's all like jib cameras and perfect makeup and like perfect looking people. It's just him literally in his bedroom in a 3 foot by 6 foot space at the end of his bed. And he's like, all right, guys, we're going to do 5 rounds of 5 different exercises, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. Here we go. And then the next day he posts a different one. And it's a good reminder to just tune. If people just watched a couple of those, they'll be like, oh, I could do that with my band. There's no weights involved there. There's no bench. There's no jump ropes. There's
Hmm.
like, he's not using stuff. He's
Right.
just sweating for 20 minutes. And really that's the thing. It's getting up and down out of the ground. It's moving your body. It's sweating. And we
Hmm.
want to get our students sweating because they're not going to do it on their own.
Right. And the big thing is that you have to do it in the preseason. If you look at all the top sports teams, they're making their heavy conditioning time prior to the actual season starts. And then when the season does
Yeah. We
begin,
don't we don't have time for that in September, October. We're
when the
not working out together.
right,
I'm still working out. We have Mondays off, and on Thursdays we have between school and 6 p.m. I'm always working out Monday, Thursday, and one of the weekend days. That's all I get in the fall, mostly, because I'm not one of those people who can wake up at 5 in the morning and work out like my mom. My mom does that in her 70s, and I'm like, this is just not me. I
that's
like my
really
sleep
impressive.
too much. Yeah. But I think you're right. You front load it in the summer, and then hopefully by the time the fall hits, they're moving well enough.
And the big rehearsal time is actually during the summer. The majority of your season
Right.
is band camp in those hours. So you want to prep them and load them going into band camp so that they're not sitting on the sidelines because they haven't gotten used to physical activity. That's your most valuable time. So you have to have them as ready as possible for that.
Right. When I show up to the field at 3:45 on a Tuesday, October 15th,
Hmm.
our head director is saying to me, "Get this over with."
Uh-huh.
He's literally standing there looking at his watch, going, "Tick tock, what are we doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I need 2 minutes at least for dynamic stretching and 3 minutes for the stretch routine. And I'd like to have 15 minutes to review this marching thing that they're doing poorly in the show." And he's like, "Cool, you have 6 total."
Make
And
it
I'm like,
happen.
"How about 8?" And he's like, "Oh, see, okay, 7." And we stick to it too. I will be
Mhm.
holding my iPhone, just be like, whatever we're doing, and we're in the middle of a rep. I'm like, okay, it's 4 o'clock on the not on the nose. We're done.
Right.
Otherwise, Chris Crakey's going to be breathing down my neck,
Hmm. And
because
it's
he's
not.
got a whole thing. He's got an hour and a half to hit 7.5 minutes of show,
Hmm.
and I get it. I'm not going to argue with him about it. He's right. So I try to use my time efficiently. If it's a Saturday and we have a lot of hours, I'll fight for, give me an hour,
Hmm.
give me 45 minutes.
And it's
And
not
it's my
rocket
job to
science
make
to
sure,
condense it.
right. It's my job to make the most efficient use of the time that the head director has given.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, we've had to adjust on the fly based on the sizes of the bands that we work with for what we're going to do in place and what we're going to do on the move. Wando and Carmel are very comparable in size, but when we go work with people like Clemson University's marching band, which has 400 of them, we have to figure out how we can do that stuff in place so they're not running into each other out on the field. And the setup is really important for your success and your time management during that.
Right. Yeah. We were much bigger this year than even the previous year. I think we've grown by 40 students every year the last 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
My freshman class this year of just the marchers, not color guard, not even drumline, really, just the wind marchers was the size of the cadets drum and bugle corps.
Wow.
So all the people who've never marched before in their life and who are probably the least in shape of all the students on the field is as large as a drum corps. Like,
That's
okay, good
nerve
luck.
wracking.
Yeah, good luck.
Um, how do you see the future of this changing with that many young people, and we're adding all this choreography in? Um, how do you see marching and choreography and all of these things blending together in a safe way for our students?
Well, I don't see it changing a whole lot at a Wando or at a Carmel or at an Avon or some of these big Texas groups, because they're already going down the path we're talking about, or have been going down it for a decade now. I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing we're going to see in the next 10 years is all the way down to the smallest band programs getting on board with this because
Hmm.
of technology. Maybe somebody listens to this. If they just put in place a little more working out, a little more dynamic stretching, and a little more playing properly, scores are going to rise for even
Hmm.
the smallest groups. So I would say, if I'm talking to you, Joe Schmo, average band director who's doing it all by themselves,
Hmm.
don't overthink it. Watch a YouTube video on dynamic stretching and do it.
Right.
Watch a YouTube video that I've put out there or any of our dynamic marching curricula and just implement it. Don't overthink it. It's it's
Hmm.
not it's not rocket science. You need proper stretching. You need your kids to move more early season, and you need more fundamentals of dance and body and ballet.
Hmm.
So I think that's, as we get more and more programs on board with that, we're going to see much more artistic um, achievement.
Hmm. You teach anatomy as well, and you're in the classroom all year. How do you keep the kids active between into marching band and beginning of summer marching band?
Well, I don't really. I don't. I just they're doing other stuff. We
Hmm.
don't. Marching band is a thing we do at Carmel.
Hmm.
It is not the thing we do.
Right.
We are successful. Even in years when I'm not even talking about winning. Like, we're successful. We have great programs that we put out there and entertain people, and it's obviously at a high level, whether we're in the top five or not. But the main thing is that that's one thing that we do at Carmel. Our spring musical. I'm really upset that one of the things I'm upset about this spring not being in school is the spring musical at Carmel is every bit as strong as a Broadway musical.
Hmm.
That's not happening this year, and people made those roles, and we're excited about being in the pit orchestra and in the ensemble, and they're not going to be able to do that. But
Hmm.
our jazz bands, we have 5 jazz bands at Carmel, 6 concert bands, 5 orchestras, 3 color guards. There's stuff going on all the time, and I can't dip into that.
Yeah.
I this is going to kind of turn some people off. I don't get winter winds. I don't understand why, and maybe some people are going to comment on this negatively, but like, your concert band being awesome is going to make your marching band awesome.
Right. They do
Doing
feed
a
each
winter
other.
winds program is not going to make your concert band better. It's just doing more marching band. For
Hmm.
me, I could
Hmm.
be, a minority opinion in this, but I want our concert bands to be as top notch as possible, so that I'm teaching the visual to a program of a group that plays well. That makes
And
sense.
there's also some physical therapy research behind a bit of this as far as tracking. Now, granted, some people say it's a logical fallacy because I'm tracking baseball players and comparing them to marching band students. But when you're in those youth ages and you try to specialize in one thing and do it almost year round, which is technically defined as 8 months or more, you're at much greater risk of injury because you never really give your body a chance to adapt to other stimulus. So building other muscles and doing activities that are a little bit different actually help you in the long run, stay off the sidelines.
Yeah, and also just being respectful that um, me as the visual instructor, I'm not in charge of their time outside of marching band season. It's not my place. I do say to them, guys, don't show up in May for our first rehearsal out of shape.
Right.
When I first see them in May, we do like this, or maybe it's usually late April, early May. We have just one night rehearsal, and I'll be like, guys, I know you haven't done any marching since November, but have you moved? Have you worked out? And most of them are, you can see it on their faces. They're like, nah. you know? And I'm like, well, June is when marching band starts. You have a month. And I know you guys have a workout that's like a month long or something like
Mhm.
that, right? What's that
Yeah, I've got
called?
a free 6 week, I call it the back to band workout, because
Right.
it's going to take your body 1 to 2 months to adjust to being physically active again. Not even talking muscle growth, but just your nervous system getting used to having your body being pushed.
So if they start that on May 1st, they're going to be really ready for marching band mid-June.
Hmm.
They don't start that till school is out on June 1st. They're not going to
Hmm.
be able to be ready for marching band until mid-July, which is
Right.
actually okay for West Coast bands.
Yeah.
A
If you
lot
don't
of
start in
West
June.
Coast bands they're not doing anything in
Hmm.
June.
And
There's certainly some schools who take all of June off. We're not one of them, but
hmm.
yeah, I mean, 4 6 weeks, whatever it is, you can't just expect to for students to just magically be okay on the marching field.
Right. And it's interesting that you talked about the at-home workout, rocket science or lack thereof. But in the past 2 days, I put out this back-to-band workout that's really been available for free on our website for the past year and a half. And I posted about it and reminded people while they're quarantined, hey, this exists. And in the past 2 days, we've had 250 downloads on it. So hopefully, we're going to see this trend where the quarantine almost helps the kids be physically ready for their upcoming band season. All the groups that we work with in the band camp times, when we try to get in contact with them and set them up with something in the spring to get ready, that's what we hand them. We say, hey, I want your kids to be ready when they show up for band camp. They have to have this in their hands before they leave school for the summer so they know what to be doing
Now, is most of your audience for this directors or students?
for the back to band workout.
Just for the podcast or for the back to band workout,
Mhm.
either one.
I think most podcasting is for directors. I don't necessarily think that the young kids are listening to podcasts as much, but I
Right.
put lots of
I,
TikToks out for them.
yeah, I'm not getting on that. Not interested. That ship's passed me by. However, what I will say, if this is mostly directors listening, and you are at home, you have to come out of this quarantine in the best shape of your adult life.
Mhm.
You, if you don't, you will never ever be in shape. And I know that's really, I'm being very direct, but like,
Mhm.
when else are you going to have enough time to where you can always fit in? And like for me, Wim Hof breathing, meditating, and working out. Those are three things that I don't negotiate on right now. I have plenty of time. I'm
Mhm.
going to do my breathing exercises. I'm going to meditate once or twice a day. I'm going to do at least 30 minutes of HIIT training or Tabata training or like sweating of some kind, maybe some weights here and there. That's an hour at most of my day, and I'm home all day.
Mhm.
So,
And you'll
and we
feel
all are
great
right
after
now.
you do it.
I know I'm going to come out of this, in great shape and feeling good. And if if you're just taking this time to be sad and sitting around and watching Netflix and drinking lots of beer, uh, you're going to look back on this 6 weeks of your life going, man, I had a shot. I had a shot of getting my weight down. I had a shot of bringing my energy back. And the more in shape we are as adults, the more um, energy we have to be passionate when we're teaching our students.
Yes.
And I guess I'm just throwing that out there as maybe that's a sound bite that you need to put out. It's
I'm
just
really
a
glad you
one
did.
30-second thing, but we gotta get in shape as adults.
Mhm. There's a couple things with that. I'm so glad you mentioned it. We have the Band Directors for Better Health Facebook group, and it's
Awesome.
really taken off. There's over 1,000 band directors in it right now, cheering each other on. We posted a podium to 5K workout plan for these 6 weeks, and there's been some awesome engagement with that. Band directors are posting their sweaty selfies of them doing the workout program. It's more than just a typical jog walk progression. We have our strength and conditioning days. We also have the run walk progression days and then some rest and stretch days. But there have been a lot of band directors hop on this train because if you're a director listening to this, you know how busy your life is. And this is the one chance you have to make that long term health change. Um, I've talked to Dr. Mark Speed at Clemson about this extensively. Band directors, because they conduct so much, have serious shoulder injuries, and their posture when they conduct tends to be a forward slouch posture. You don't get to move around much if you're standing on the podium or sitting at your desk all day. So we want to give you guys the tools to be as healthy as possible throughout your teaching career, so that you do have the energy to give back and be passionate and physically engaging with your students. By motivating them. And you and Bobby talk about this all the time, but Bobby always says it takes 3 years to change a band's culture. If you, the director, start getting in shape in year one, that's going to speed those 3 years up, because the kids are actually going to buy into any changes you're trying to make with getting them in shape.
Yeah, and let's face it, if your math teacher gets in shape, it doesn't motivate your math class to get in shape.
Mm-hmm.
There's something different being a band director, being a choir teacher, being an orchestra director. You're around these kids for 4 years. They look up to you in a way they don't to some of their other teachers. I don't have the same level of relationships with students in my anatomy and physiology classroom as I do on the marching field.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not because I'm a different person. It's just a different environment. It's a different expectation of, hey, we're all in this together. We better get along. We
Mm-hmm.
better figure each other out. And so I do think you're right. A band director who gets in shape might motivate some of his or her students to get in shape as well.
Mm-hmm. And that carries just as many dividends as teaching them leadership skills at this age. If you teach them to be healthy when they're a teenager, you're going to have a healthier adult long term.
For sure. Yeah.
So, well, Jeff, I really appreciate having you on. Um, I'm really glad we got into the band director side of things, because that's an area that needs to be addressed for our audience. But do you have any last words you want to put out there for directors as they're going through this quarantine time or looking into the 2020 season?
Oh, I know there's a lot of band directors out there who are one person, one man shop kind of vibe where they do everything except for maybe color guard. And I guess I would say you need somebody on your staff who's doing this, who's not you. If even if it's a former drum major or somebody who's in college, bring somebody in for the summer, pay him a couple $100 and just be like, you're in charge of figuring out dynamic stretching and working out and plies. Go to dynamic marching, get the system video series. Right now it's free until May. You
Mm-hmm.
can share with your students. I've released 8 different videos, I think, for free right now because of the quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
Show that to this person and be like, hey, I have a lot on my plate. I need some help here. And then you can be there, offering help to that person to become a better teacher and offering feedback to students who aren't maybe engaged in the process. But if you can have someone on your staff who's like, oh, that's our physical fitness guy. That's our Elliot Cleveland, it's going to make things a lot easier. So you don't have to do that part of it.
Right. And one of the big things we do is when we go work with bands, we spend at least 2 hours with just the leadership team. And I know you work with the Carmel drum majors to make them kind of that person if you're not there. So at least somebody is there that has the skill set to make it happen for them.
I do, and I know maybe this isn't a quick ending here, but I will
Go
tell
for it.
people, don't just give your drum majors a list of things and say, here, you're doing this now. I do talk to my drum majors about the proper form that they're looking for. I tell them not to allow screwing around. We do keep it light during dynamic stretching, but it's not screwing around, not that
Right.
light,
Right.
right? And so I'm teaching them exactly how to model the different stretches and how to give good feedback before I ever give it over to them.
And the more that those kids buy into it, the better the band will buy into it. And those kids can take this and run with it, and it gives them 5 to 15 minutes each rehearsal to actually get to motivate their peers in a way that's different than just their typical run back to the next set and get set when you get there kind of motivation. It's a better leadership opportunity for them as well.
Agreed.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I really enjoyed talking to you as always. Um, Find him at Jeff at dynamicmarching.com if you have any questions, and tune into that band live because he and Bobby are putting out some phenomenal information for directors everywhere.
Thanks, Elliot. Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.